Welcome, each of you. Um, you're attending the first edition of the Napoleon European Week. This is going to be our fifth meeting, and the topic will be the sustainable cultural tourism development, challenges for the Napoleonic heritage in Europe. So this meeting will be moderated by our director, Eleonora Berti. So Eleonora, you have the floor. Thank you. Eleonora?
Yes, good morning,
Thank
Charles. Good morning, everybody. We are really glad to have you for our last talk, part of the Destination Napoleon Talks, a cycle of webinars. We inaugurated, in fact, at the occasion of our first edition of the European Week of Destination Napoleon, launched the last week for the commemoration of the bicentenary of the Napoleon deaths. So we already had the chance to discuss a number of interesting matters which are at the core of our daily work. So the question of the reenactment and the role of reenactments in the transmission of the Napoleon heritage, an interview, a parallel interview with our president, Charles, and the president of our scientific committee, Professor Jacques-Olivier Boudon, about the context in which the history of Napoleon has to be located, let's say, to be fully understood, and the multi-perspective approach we need when speaking about this history along our cultural route. Then we had the chance to speak about the importance of the new technologies for both our museums and cities, and the importance of those tools in the transmission of our common heritage, in particular, in our case, the heritage linked to Napoleon, and how the COVID crisis, in fact, played the role of accelerator, let's say, for the development of those technologies. Then on Monday this week, we had the chance to discuss about the recreational tools at the service of the transmission of history, and how those playful tools can help us as cultural route to, in fact, to ensure a transmission of our common history. And today we conclude, in fact, our talks with another important subject, which is the development of sustainable cultural tourism along the Destination Napoleon, and the challenges we have for our Napoleonic heritage in Europe. In fact, the concerns about the sustainability, the economic sustainability, social sustainability, environmental sustainability, and cultural sustainability are at the core of our work in general, and in particular, because we are one of the Council of Europe cultural routes certified by the Council of Europe, following a set of criteria. One of those criteria in particular mentioned the sustainable cultural development and sustainable cultural tourism. So it's really connected with our daily concerns. So we will discuss this topic with important guests today. We have the pleasure to have among us Stefano Dominioni, who is the Executive Secretary of the Enlarged Partial Agreement on Cultural Routes of the Council of Europe. Ana Umbelino from the Linus de Torres Vedras in Portugal, Amanda Lumley from the City Council of Plymouth, and then our president, Charles Bonaparte, will conclude with some points, part of the strategy of Destination Napoleon for the months and years to come. So I'm really pleased to introduce Stefano Dominioni. I see Stefano online. Stefano is an executive secretary in Luxembourg of the enlarged partial agreement on the cultural roots of the Council of Europe, and also director of the European Institute of Cultural Roots. I had the chance to work with him during 2 years, and really glad to have him here today in order to allow you to better understand the connections between cultural roots and sustainability. He will introduce those connections, and I think if he is online, Stefano, you have the screen, and thank you very, very much for having accepted our invitation and being with us today.
Thank you, Eleonora. First of all, my greetings to you and to Charles Bonaparte, President of Destination Napoleon, Charles, and to Jacques Mattei, also in the management board of the Destination Napoleon, one of the cultural routes certified by the Council of Europe. Charles, I know this is a very important year for you, for the network, for the development also at European level, with the celebrations this year for Napoleon, and of course for us is very relevant to have Destination Napoleon as one of the cultural roots of the Council of Europe, as the audience know. This is a program that the Council of Europe has established around promoting a common European heritage, a shared memory, history, based on what connects us all together as Europeans. And Napoleon is a figure of European history that has left so many important parts of our heritage across all our member states. So it is very relevant that the Destination Napoleon is part of the network of the cultural roots of the Council of Europe. We have been asked to address you on sustainable development, on cultural sustainable development, cultural tourism, and it's a pleasure to say a few words about that as well. I know that your secretariat, Eleonora, has some slides for our audience, so we can maybe show a few slides to describe very briefly. For those who know already, I will be very brief. For those who don't know, it will be the opportunity to give you a little extract of what the cultural roots of the Council of Europe is. So if we go to the next slide, just to give you an overview of what the program is, we can proceed to the next slide. Yeah, great. Maybe we can put it on full screen. But in a nutshell, you can see there the Council of Europe geography. It is always pertinent to show the Council of Europe as a pan-European international organization, really devoted to human rights, democracy, and rule of law, but really encompassing the 47 member states of the Council of Europe. And this is relevant for Destination Napoleon, as a matter of fact, because it really stretches beyond the classic border of what we consider Europe. So 47 member states covering really the whole continent as the oldest pan-European organization. Extremely active and nowadays in many fields, especially in democratic transition, especially in anti-discrimination, but also in cultural diversity. And this is the subject of the cultural roots, promoting European shared heritage and identity based on really the recognition of our common history with respect of our cultural diversity in order to promote intercultural dialogue. This is a little bit in a nutshell what the Council of Europe is. And we can go to the next slide, please. Two headquarters of the Council of Europe, Strasbourg for the headquarters of the organization, but Luxembourg for the headquarters of the enlarged partial agreement on cultural roots and the European Institute of Cultural Roots. Luxembourg has been extremely not only generous, but an institutional setting privileged in many ways, with strong support of the Ministry of Culture and Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and there is where Eleonora Berti was referring to her work with the Cultural Program in the framework of the Institute, a technical agency of the program devoted to advising, but also providing assistance with the certification cycle of the cultural roots, and also in terms of training and documentation. So that is a very important institutional setting. We go to the next slide to show you that nowadays Destination Napoleon is one of the cultural roots of the Council of Europe, backed by the political support of 35 member states. And here you have the geography of specific instrument, the enlarged partial agreement on cultural roots of the Council of Europe, that is promoted and supported by today 35 member states, with a recent accession of Ukraine just a few weeks ago, bringing the program to almost covering the whole continent. And we are working with some of the members of the Council of Europe, not yet members of the Partial Agreement, who will join soon. We're discussing that this year. And the next slide will show you the overall perimeter of the cultural roots of the Council of Europe. We do have a variety, both in terms of historic periods and geographical scope, that is really quite substantial. Destination Napoleon is one of the important cultural roots of the Council of Europe in a portfolio that really covers from art to architecture to history to civilizations to gastronomy to landscape to ancient or first Europeans. And the next slides will show you that. Very important religious heritage of Europe, but also history and civilization and arts and architecture. These are all really fundamental areas of work. And recently, we had scientific discoveries. We have European industrial heritage that has joined recently. So we really have a very portfolio, and there is many new candidate routes that every year apply for certification. So this is also shows the dynamism of the program. And the next slide will give you in a very let's say clear but also simplified view a little bit of statistics of the program, with all the countries of the Council of Europe crossed by the cultural routes, and an institutional network of over 3,000 institutional members, local authorities, regional authorities, institutional partners, and a lot of financing that has been distributed over the years to the cultural routes of the Council of Europe through a variety of EU-funded programs. Next slide, please. Why the cultural roots of the Council of Europe is important? It's a quality label. It's a label of excellence, representative of European values, based on multidisciplinary scientific research, with the objective of enhancing memory, history, and heritage, but also to promote further understanding among Europeans, especially young Europeans, of the importance of a shared European history, and also to create a network of destinations for tourism, for cultural tourism purposes, but also for developing best practices and innovative projects. And next slide, please. unique Cultural Roots program. There's nothing like the Cultural Roots of the Council of Europe. It's really a one of a kind. Also because it focuses sometimes on less known destinations, not always. There's a lot of it, like, let's say, for example, UNESCO World Heritage Sites on the Council of Europe Cultural Roots. But by definition, the Cultural Roots cross very much our regional territories, our rural areas, and really create a clusters of tourism destinations, engaging local stakeholders. And this is very much in conformity with Council of Europe conventions. I could mention the Faro Convention that really access to local citizens, democratic use of cultural heritage, but also participation at the local level. One of the only program at European level that is really and truly transnational. And it's very bottom up because it's civil society, but it's also local authorities that promote the program in a network transnational approach. So it's really unique, and it is growing every year because of the added value it entails. Next slide, please.
Excuse me, Stefano, we can hear you not so well.
Yeah.
It's fine like this. We can.
Sorry?
I don't know why. We can hear you. We cannot hear you very well. We try
okay.
Maybe.
So I can't really do that much. I'm sorry.
Okay. Okay. We continue like this. Thank you in any case. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. So I will maybe short the certification cycle. You can find a lot of information about it, but it's important to mention that there is a very strongly enforced certification cycle for new applications, but also for certified route. Destination Napoleon recently went through the certification. The next slide, please. And there is priority actions. I don't think we have to go through this in particular, but we will be circulating the slides to all the participants, those who are not familiar with the criteria for certification. You can go to the next slide, please. Yes, because here we come to the topic of the let's say more specifically the talk, cultural roots and sustainable cultural tourism. This is one of the key areas of interventions, as I was mentioned before. Regional and rural areas are the most interested and interesting for the cultural roots program. 90% of the cultural roots cross rural areas, and the beauty of the program is really that creates synergies and cooperation at local level, but in a transnational, sustainable way, integrating less known destinations, engaging them in a way that is sustainable, because the cultural products that are developed are very much local, very much based on sustainability, are very much based on arts and crafts and products that are developed at local level. So they really improve and empower local economies and local communities. The next slide, please. I have now brought to you some examples of this type of heritage. The first example that you have in front of you is a slide concerning the European route of historic thermal towns. So the idea is to maintain and thrive local employment and connection, protecting national and cultural resources, and sustainable tourism and regional development at its best. For the historic thermal towns, what I want to show you is the offer of tourism packages offering the discovery of thermal destinations together with different tourism services, accommodations, restaurants, spa treatments, and etc. But everything is made local at a local level, and there are very much tailor-made offers in member towns. So each town is different. Each town has its own, let's say, heritage and specificities, and they are advertised through the cultural route of the thermal towns, but sold directly by tour operators, so travel agencies and providers locally. So it's very much local tour operators. It's not a major, let's say, operator worldwide. It's very much small operators that act at local level. The next slide, please. Sorry, if we just go back one slide, because I want to show you the Eat Well and Live Well catalog. We can just go backwards, please. Yeah, Thank you. So it's a catalog that promotes the discovery of local cuisine in thermal destinations, enhancement of tangible and intangible local heritage, an invitation to experience the regional foods, the specialities of the region, traditions, products from the area while discovering the thermal destinations. So it's very much, again, local, sustainable, regional, the gastronomy and the tangible and intangible heritage with the recipes and the cuisine, really discovering the local added value of the destinations. Next slide, please. And as far as sustainable cultural tourism, Itervitis, the vine route, it is also a very good example because of the focus on training, on education, in the local wineries and local traditions. This is a particular example of student exchanges that attended daily classes to learn local enology and wine tourism practice. This is about experiencing regional heritage and culture with local families, and that is quite an important aspect of the local culture, sustainable culture. So engaging the families at local level to participate and sharing their heritage with the students. This was an exchange of students between Georgia, long vine and tradition, and Italy in 2019. And there was an award, Itervitis Award, launched in 2018 to support local initiatives. So this also gives a better visibility to participants to gain interest from partners. There's a tourist catalog of less known wine tourism destinations in the Adriatic, in the Balkans. So again, wine cultural tourism, but local destinations and tourism guide very much at the local level. The next slide, please. We're coming to the end of the presentation. I want to show you an example of sustainable cultural tourism for the Via Francigena, good practices. This is a promotion of the discovery of local products while traveling along the route. In the Parma region, you're familiar with the Parmigiano Reggiano, and this was about a stop and taste partnership established with local producers and small businesses, dairy farms, markets, and restaurants. Connecting the Via Francigena with the territories, it crosses via the gastronomy of the local territories, and visitors can really learn about production processes and taste and learn how to make Parmesan cheese and buy the product. And this project produced considerable increase of visitors in the region and contributed to the local economy. And the last slide, please, is about the slide on the olive tree best practices. If we can move to the next slide. Yeah, so the Well Olive, the Road to Wellness, is a transnational network with actors from 7 European countries: Bulgaria, Croatia, Finland, Greece, Italy, and Spain. And this network developed vacation packages about wellness and well-being along the route of the olive tree, with a route of the olive tree also training for professionals in the field of tourism and gastronomy, and the creation of of info points to provide local communities with the relevant information. This was an activity that was developing the framework of our joint program with the European Commission, Roots to You, with the grant we provide to the route of the olive tree, and a cooperation with tourism offices to ensure wider visibility. So you can see that our cultural routes have a really great variety of activities in the field of cultural tourism, and this is really done at the local level, and it's a way to provide and promote a greater access to really local heritage. We have one or two more slides, but I think that we can most likely, if we can go to the next slide. I can distribute the presentation afterwards. But this is to give you an overview of the variety of activities in the field of sustainable cultural tourism. The way we see it, to conclude my presentation, is against the background of the COVID pandemic, this year has been a year of to a certain extent, reflection strategy about how to restart once the pandemic will succeed. We have conducted a variety of surveys and analysis of the situation. The understanding is that also based on indicators, the interest for cultural sustainable tourism and the interest for traveling along the cultural routes of the Council of Europe will just grow continuously, if not exponentially. And so here you can see a number of seminars that we conducted on responses to COVID pandemic. We believe that the cultural roots of the Council of Europe is one of the instruments, privileged instruments for restarting tourism after the pandemic. And we do believe that the interest in our model, in the branding of the Cultural Roots program will continue to grow continuously. We had indication already last year with a lot of new applications for certification. This will continue this year. We already have received several requests for applying for the label. So what we're missing is more funding, more awareness at a political level, but it's coming. And there is greater interest both at the level of the Council of Europe and the level of European institutions. So this is also in the framework of the initiative that Destination Napoleon, with its manifesto, is being promoting. So you can count on our support, Charles and colleagues. So thank you for the opportunity to present. If you have questions, I'll be happy to stay online longer, and otherwise you know where to find me in Luxembourg, and all the best to you and good work today. Thank you very much, Eleonora.
Thank you very much for this introduction. Maybe you can also see me now. Yes. So thank you very much. I think it's really visible through your presentation how the cultural roots can implement these values of sustainability, the values of the Council of Europe. And I think it's also interesting and important to know that the European institution, also for our cities, for our members, are working together and joining forces for supporting the work done on the ground by the members of the networks, in particular on this topic of sustainability, sustainable cultural development, and sustainable tourism development. So thank you very much, Stefano, for your introduction. If you can stay with us, it's really a pleasure. Now I'm glad to introduce Amanda Lumley for Plymouth, Destination Plymouth. She's the executive director of Destination Plymouth. Plymouth is the only UK city member of the European Federation of Napoleonic Cities. Amanda is our contact person, in fact, in the city. She's also president of the Tourism Management Institute. So it's really a pleasure, Amanda, to better know the activities Plymouth is organizing in this sense on the topic of sustainability and, in particular, sustainable cultural tourism. Thank you very much for being here.
Thanks, Eleonora, and thank you for introducing me in such a lovely way. I think it's really appropriate, actually, that you're hosting this webinar right at the moment, and I am hoping that I have a presentation which will work, because my technology is not very good this morning. My Wi-Fi keeps failing, so I apologise if anything happens in advance. But it is really appropriate because this year, in the UK, Glasgow will host COP 26, which will be the Global Climate Change Summit. And the UK government has prioritised reducing carbon significantly and has actually brought forward many of its carbon reduction targets. So we can't fail to be influenced by that, but also by public opinion. And of course, the day-to-day consumer is becoming more and more aware of the issues around climate change. And in fact, tourism, if you exclude transport, tourism accounts for 8% of carbon impacts globally. Of course, some of the transport impacts are higher, but even so, 8% of the world's carbon impacts And there are many ways that we can help to reduce those and influence those. So I'm going to just very quickly see if I can bring up my PowerPoint. Let me just see if I can share my screen. Oh, I think you need to enable me to share my screen, Eleonora.
Yeah, Pierre-Paul, est-ce que tu peux... Merci. Tu peux lui donner la main?
C'est bon, un peu.
Merci. So you can.
Okay, so let me just try this to see if it actually works. Here we go. Let me just see if this works. Can you see that? Is it possible to see?
Yes, we can see.
Yes. Okay. Let me just see. Okay. I'm not sure if it will. Oh, there we go. Okay, it worked. Excellent. Okay. So for those of you who are not familiar with Plymouth, Plymouth is the largest city on the south coast of England with over 260,000 inhabitants. It's the 14th largest city in the UK. And we are very famous for our connection to the sea and the oceans, hence our branding of Britain's Ocean City. And we have a long history. And of course, Napoleon is part of our history. And I was delighted to be able to commemorate the 200th anniversary last week with the French consul here in Plymouth, Stéphanie Dossi, and the Lord Mayor. And we laid commemorative wreaths at the Napoleon Memorial. And it was great to be able to do that despite the COVID pandemic. Most of you will probably not know, though, that Plymouth Sound is actually one of the most highly designated areas of water in terms of designations for marine and scientific areas in the whole of the UK. And in fact, it's one of the most researched pieces of waters in the UK. And so we have a strong connection, and we have a long history, and we're very proud of Plymouth Sound and the marine environment and the activities and the opportunities that it affords our local public. And you can see this view looking from the other direction, which is from the Cornwall side, so looking from west to east, and you can see looking across towards the waterfront. And in the middle of your picture is Drake's Island, and Drake's Island is a protected marine habitat, and they have seahorses and eelgrass, which is very, very important for marine conservation. And in fact, we are currently leading in the UK on the development of eelgrass and growing the eelgrass beds, because they are one of the best ways to capture carbon, even better than trees. They're very, very effective at soaking carbon up from the environment and helping to offset the imbalance. But of course, Plymouth is also, we're a major naval base, port, and we're also one of the largest cities in the southwest of England. And so we don't have as high a carbon footprint as somewhere like Dover, which has 14 million trucks going through it every year. But we do have a significant carbon footprint from the manufacturing and from the naval base. So we're really keen to reduce it. And of course, from a tourism perspective, we want to make sure that we are we have green credentials, and that people want to come and visit because of our green credentials. So last year, in 2020, the city declared, as many cities did in the UK, a climate emergency. And not only that, but we have a fully ratified climate emergency action plan, with over 100 different actions which over the next 10 years. And we also last year wrote our next 10-year visitor strategy for the city up to 2030, and we embedded the environment well and truly and firmly into the strategy. In fact, one of our stated key ambitions is to become the UK's first carbon neutral city by 2030. So that's a very big ambition. It's a huge aspiration, and we're already working towards doing that. In addition to that, we also announced our intent to become the UK's first national marine park, and we wanted to do that because we felt that if not Plymouth, where? Because we have so many internationally significant marine designations already, and we're very keen for our local community to engage more with the environment, with the ocean, with the water. We're home to the National Marine Aquarium and the Ocean Conservation Trust, and we felt it was really important that actually we started to develop the knowledge and the understanding and the skills and the education, not just for our visitors coming to the city, but also we embedded it across the whole of the local community. And so we made a declaration of intent last year, and we announced to the government that we were going to do this. And we're currently starting to develop the programme of activity and the work and the funding streams that we need to start to do this. And you might say, well, what has that got to do with Napoleon? Well, you know, we're very proud of our historic connections, and you know, we've got a great connection with the sea and with France and with Napoleon, and our two cultures are intrinsically and fundamentally connected through food, through fishing, through our history, and you know, we want to make sure that we are protecting that and nurturing it for our future generations to come. So all of these things happened in the last 12 months. And what we've been doing since then is we've been starting to explore from the visitor side of things, what are the sorts of things that people want to do here? What activities do they do? How do they perceive the city? So we've been doing lots of perception work. And we've just started to develop some of that product and start to look at it a little bit more. And you can see some of the examples. You could effectively do a different water activity here in the city every month of the year. There are over 12 different activities. Plymouth is the top cold water diving destination in the UK. We are also obviously a great port for fishing. That's leisure fishing as well as commercial fishing. But of course, you can do lots of activities from paddleboarding to sailing. And of course, we're internationally recognised for our competitive sailing as well. So what we've started to do is develop our product. And I just wanted to share this with you because we've started to develop our Napoleon product, and we did this because working with Eleanor and the team, we wanted to have some specific content for the 200th anniversary this year. And we've got a new web page set up, we've got new itineraries, and these itineraries, of course, when people are able to visit them and they come to the city, they will start to see as they come into the city over the next 12 months to 24 months, more and more and more interpretation, explaining to them why Plymouth is an important place in terms of marine conservation and environment and science. And they will start to, they will be encouraged, for example, we have an Interreg programme running currently with a number of Interreg partners, which is a plastic reduction programme. So we have been working with businesses across the city, and we've over 80% of our businesses across the city have pledged to reduce their plastic over the next 12 months, their plastic consumption. So we have a number of programmes which are running across the city, which are connected to the environment. And of course, you know, one of the things we want to do is encourage people to go out onto the water and to explore for themselves. So part of our Napoleon itinerary includes a boat trip, because as you can see from the pictures here, the Bellerophon was, of course, in Plymouth Sound. And it's fascinating to read the newspaper coverage from 1815. Over 10,000 people were supposed to be in Plymouth Sound waiting for Napoleon to come on deck. And you can just see him at the top left of your screen on the Bellerophon. And he used to come out every day and see the people. And there was significant newspaper coverage. And you know, he was most definitely an icon of his time, and we're very proud of that connection. So I guess that's just an overview, really. But I wanted to just share something with you. I have Eleonora. I'm going to be bold, and I'm going to try and run a short video if I can. Okay, can you see that?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So hopefully the sound will work. You'll have to just let me know, Eleonora, if it doesn't work. So here goes. I just wanted to share with you our ambitions and our aspirations, and the environment is really at front and centre of everything we're doing, and we hope that all our visitors coming to Plymouth over the next few years will start to see the change and the shift towards more knowledge and understanding of what we need to do to reduce those global impacts from carbon, and start to shift everybody's perception about the city. So that's my short presentation. I'm happy to take questions, Eleonora, if anybody wants to ask questions, if we have any time left.
Thank you very much, Amanda. In fact, as we are live on Facebook, people will share their questions on Facebook, and then we will be able to read it on our chat. So at the moment we do not have, but I think it's really interesting, this connection between the strategies of Plymouth as a city, in fact, as a destination. So this sustainability, this no impact, low impact strategy you have, and the mission to become greener and greener in the next years, and the objectives, the strategies, the goals we have as a network of cities. So I think here the example of Plymouth will be really beneficial also to be shared with the other cities part of the network, and is really in line. Stefano Dominioni mentioned before during his speech the manifesto we share with the other cultures. I think the experience of Plymouth, a part of the projects linked with Destination Napoleon, are really interesting also to be proposed and to be discussed together. So thank you very, very much, Amanda, for your time. And thank you also for sharing with us the link to the video so that we can publish it on our website and Facebook page, and people will be able to look at it again. So I have the pleasure to introduce you Mrs. Ana Ombelino. Ana is our contact person in Torres Vedras in Portugal. She's a councillor in the municipality, and she's here in particular in her capacity as vice president of the Association for the Tourist Development of the Lines of Torres Vedras. And she's involved in the questions linked to local sustainable development and tourism, sustainability in tourism more in general. Also for other activities she's involved in. In fact, Ana, you will correct me if needed, is also member of the board of the European Network of Cities and Regions for the Social Economy. She's member of expert group on social economy and social enterprises. And she's also, I discovered, vice president of the Portuguese Jewish Quarter Network, which I imagine is linked also to another cultural route of the Council of Europe, the European Jewish Heritage Culture Route. So Ana is really, in fact, aware of all the different questions, both linked to sustainability in tourism and local development, and in particular the concerns linked to the cultural roots. So Ana, thank you very, very much for being here, and you have the screen.
Thank you very much, Eleonora, also for the invitation. It is actually a great pleasure to join this conversation around a new agenda of challenges concerning sustainable cultural tourism in this post-COVID crisis. We actually firmly believe that this approach, this new approach to tourism, can contribute to the desired ecological and social transitions by, as it was mentioned before, reducing carbonic footprints increasing reuse and short circuits, revaluing the small scale local products, and actually perceiving communities' knowledge as an asset, and of course creating quality jobs in line with the pillar of social rights, as I was mentioning, creating quality jobs in many different areas, including creative industries. And we also believe that this movement, this new approach to tourism, can actually enhance social capital and community intelligence and creativity, fostering innovation and overcoming social uprooting and civic anomie, mainly in our case in rural areas. Moreover, it can contribute actually to increase two features that we find very important concerning with tourism and beyond the economical dimension, which are hospitality and cosmopolitanism of places and territories. Because for us, tourism is important not only because of the economical dimension, and obviously that we see a growing consensus concerning the importance of reevaluating the local, of giving importance to the local, but we believe we cannot forget the openness of the territories, the necessity to keep this cosmopolitan dimension. So I will just show a very short video in order to give a sense, a flavor of the historical roots of the lines of Torres Vedras. I beg your pardon because this video, it's already, I would say, aesthetically anachronistic, sorry for my English, but it gives a general flavor of these roots. So I will try to share my screen and show it. It is quite short, actually.
Jana, could you please turn on your microphone? Otherwise, we cannot hear the video. Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think you are now going to see just some slides. I will not follow strictly the order of the slides, and I can afterwards send to you. It's just to illustrate some of the ideas that I want to point out. This short video aimed just to show the concept of this historical route. As I mentioned before, we departed from a range of fortifications from the time of Napoleonic wars. We actually started our work a decade ago in a more systematic and regular basis. And we had several fortresses spread in different municipalities. And that heritage was actually neglected. So these 6 municipalities started to have the intention to better study this heritage and to cooperate in an intermunicipality fashion in order to design a plan to restore, to conserve, and to value this important heritage. So by the time we created a platform, an intermunicipal platform, in order to start this important work and impelled by this endeavor, first an ethical impulse to protect this heritage and make it accessible for the community. It was the beginning of all our work. We started to think also how could we create a governance model that could be designed in a participatory way. So we developed a lot of relations with several different institutions concerned with culture and also with tourism, and we try to engage local communities, local cultural organizations, grassroots initiatives in order to create a big movement concerned with this whole process. So our first aim was, as I mentioned before, to study, to gather the involvement of universities, of research centers, and to do a very deep and serious research concerning with this heritage. And we started to do some options, selecting which were the fortresses that we wanted to restore, to rehabilitate, in order to create a multi-site network that was connected by what we called a big pedestrian route. I would like just to say that this defensive system, which is, as you know, called Lines of Torres Vedras, it was rooted in a very simple concept: a set of fortifications that were spread all over a huge territory, taking advantage of the orographic features of the territory, and fortresses that were linked by military roads, with a nautical telegraphic system that enable communication between all these fortresses. So we started to understand the original concept, and this historical and touristic route was also designed departing from that. So we have a set of interpretation centers that have a privileged location. They are settled in high hills, and so they are also privileged points of to observe the natural landscape. And we have so a mix between this cultural motivation, historical and cultural motivation, and other motivations concerned with nature, concerned with the observation and the enjoyment, the public enjoyment of natural heritage. I beg your pardon because I'm not showing the slides. I will do that right away. And okay. And so, as I was mentioned, in the beginning, we started to select all these fortresses that were going to be restored, rehabilitated. We connected them with a pedestrian route because walking and cycling was also an important dimension that we aimed to enhance, connected with nature and taking advantage of the opportunities that these natural and cultural assets offered. We started from the beginning, and so we had to do investigations in order to create the contents of the interpretation centers, and we did that in a holistic perspective. So we tried to tell the whole story, and each of the 6 interpretation centers that we created were focused on a specific theme. They developed a specific theme. For instance, one of them was more focused on civil resistance, or another concerning with the military features and dimensions. And in each of these interpretation centers, we also try to give voice to the local small narratives that were specific of that specific territory. And obviously, we by the time created interpretative signage, road signage, informative signage, and a set of mediation tools that were given to the tourists, the visitors. And by that time, we thought it was very important also to design an educational heritage program, not only to the school community, but also getting the involvement of other institutions concerned with non-formal educational learning to adults and also to the elderly. So this network emerged in a very organic fashion, I would say. We were committed to gather a close relation and cooperation with national institutions, not only concerned, as I mentioned before, with research, but also with cultural and touristic affairs. And we try to create a close relationship between the municipalities involved in this network and all the private players linked to tourism, but also civil society. And so we began to do and to invest in capacity building. We did a lot of technical training actions directed to the tourist agents in order to make them differentiate their touristic offer, taking into account these contents. And we tried to trigger and to support the emergence of new small businesses. And actually, nowadays, we have evidences that efforts, because we have new very small enterprises which operate at contemporary arts and crafts, creating customized brands linked to the lines of Torres Vedras. And we also have products, specific products that were created and inspired by these contents. For instance, there is a new drink that is already awarded nationally, which is inspired in the lines of Torres Vedras. It is called Old Nosy, referring to obviously to Wellington, and it is made of a traditional fruit that is very frequent and common here in our region. So our relation with the private sector was since the beginning a priority, and we did a lot of investments, as I mentioned, in capacity building, and that is for us a very important challenge. Also, we thought that it could be very interesting to create like a creative lab in these territories. And so we got close to the creative and cultural organizations, and we, with the help of some researchers, we tried to do at the beginning sessions telling all these stories. We tried to show, for instance, in what concerned to literature, what were the pieces that were inspired in this environment, in these events. So we tried to raise awareness concerning all these topics and issues, and we supported giving grants the local small cultural organizations in order to make them create new contents inspired in these historical events. So nowadays we have organized groups that are linked to historical reenactments, groups, informal groups, and nowadays some associations, which they also do investigation, research, and they are responsible for historical reenactments that we use also as a resource, an educational resource tool. But we are quite committed to also support the artistic research residencies, and we support one artistic research residency per year. We give a grant for that, and the creators who do those experiences, they are invited to work with the communities and to link the communities from these different municipalities. So community engagement was always a priority. You saw on the screen, for instance, a reference to a movie, a film that we also supported, and obviously that the extras, they were from these communities. Obviously that we had as a requirement the necessity of involve local enterprises in the film production. So we also try, and this is something that we want to explore more, to try to under public procurement to have some clauses that also enhance local businesses and local social economy organizations to be involved in this process. Nowadays we have new challenges because we created the infrastructures. We have the welcome and interpretation centers, we have the pedestrian routes, we have leaflets, audio guides, and a lot of informative and interpretative instruments. We are now committed to other challenges concerning the necessity to turn these historical routes accessible to all. And so we are also investing in mediation tools, for instance, for blind citizens, creating tactile models, creating all those kind of resources that make this this heritage accessible, really accessible to all. We are also focusing on children and young people, and developing a program, as I mentioned, that is done in connection with teachers, with school teachers. And the idea is not only to invite schools to participate in the activities that are performed at the interpretative centers, but also to make them be creators of contents. So we are doing, for instance, a project in schools in where the students, they are also co-constructors of some contents, namely an app which is an app kids friendly that invites young people to know and to enjoy this heritage. Throughout these years, we also try to invest, obviously, in the tourist dimension, and our aim was to create like a hub experience system that crosses different emergent and consolidated touristic products. Namely wines, because this region is a region in where the production of wine and wine tourism is also increasing. And so we try to create a connection, a linkage between this specific area and also the lines of Torres Vedras, also doing a lot of research and investing in research, because we believe that only through knowledge we can see the links between all these different dimensions, and to find interesting curiosities and facts that enhance creativity and boost the development of innovative services and products. And so, as I was mentioning, we try to create these kind of linkages with wine, obviously with gastronomy, but also with other products that are consolidated in this region. So that's our purpose concerning with tourism. We think that we also need more data, more quality data. And so nowadays we are trying to develop a more sophisticated data collection system. For instance, we did not have any system that allowed us to know how many people visit the fortresses, because obviously the interpretation centers have that ability, but the fortresses, they are open. So we created that system, and we are also crossing data between our partners, the different partners that are involved in this network. It's also very important to us to understand more the markets and and to have a more comprehensive reading of the markets, and to know who the profile of our tourists and visitors. And so creating a data hub and improving all this system is a priority for us. We are nowadays also investing in strategic planning and specifically designing an action plan for the development of the tourist products, also designing a marketing and a communication plan for the lines of Torres Vedras products. And we have a very close dialogue with the Portuguese tourism boards, trying to have a vertical alignment between the priorities, the national priorities, and also the priorities that we co-design among this network. So that is also obviously a very important dimension, the cooperation, national cooperation, and also international cooperation among obviously this federation, and in projects also that link Portugal and Spain. We are, for instance, connected in a project that links different regions in Portugal and in Spain, because for us it's very important to expand the impact and also to expand the scale of our work. As I mentioned before, capacity building for us is very important. We are quite attentive to which are the new agendas and the new frameworks that are being settled at European level. And so we think also that this approach to tourism can be very important in the reskilling, can give an important contribution to the reskilling agenda, because some sectors of activity were quite damaged by the pandemic, and we think that we can, through this model, reskill some of those workers and give them a new opportunity, taking advantage of their capital of knowledge and of competencies. We also think that the pandemic showed, namely in Portugal and in our region, obviously I'm talking about these specific contexts, showed that tourism was a sector in where precariousness was high. For instance, in our region, we did a study, and we realized that the first persons who were affected by the pandemic were those who worked in the tourist industry, related to massive tourism, I would say. And the most affected were migrants, actually, because in restaurants, in those kind of services, the labor force was actually composed mainly of migrants. So we have evidences that show that kind of tourism, it doesn't bring well-being, and it doesn't fulfill the economical rights of citizens. So we are quite committed with this idea of sustainable tourism, also because we think that it can provide better working conditions and more quality jobs for our citizens. just to point one or two more challenges that we identify. Well, I already mentioned that now we are quite committed with inclusion and accessibility of citizens with special needs, and we did an application, so we have some funds in order to introduce the necessary changes in our welcome and interpretation centers, and also to invest in mediation tools. We also did some applications and were able to get some funds to invest in I would say digitalization and also in virtual and augmented reality, because we find that it's important to introduce other layers of experience concerning with the lines. And so we have some funds to develop this kind of contents, which are, we believe, very, very important for intensifying the experience of the lines of Torres Vedras. And also, as I mentioned before, we are supporting contemporary art creation, and we also developed an event. We don't like very much the word event, because in Portugal, event is the translation for some events that usually do not involve the communities, and they only show they only show concerts or activities that are bought and they don't have that feature. So event is not a word that I appreciate very much, but nevertheless we developed an event process that is called New Invasions Festival, and among that festival we tried also to enhance a different approach, a different methodology of doing a tourist event that obviously involves and engage the community and is based on calls that appeal to the participation of the community, and so we are investing also on those kind of events that for us are more thought-provoking and gather a higher cultural participation of the communities. So I would like to end with a quotation. I saw recently an interview of a person who unfortunately died under this tragic Darwinistic catastrophe, which is the pandemic, and he was the director of Strasbourg National Theatre, Jean-Pierre Vincent, and he said something very interesting. If you do not have a dream, if we do not have a dream, we'll do nothing but manage. So our purpose in this association is not to manage, is actually to transform, and by these projects to create new opportunities that are not reduced to economical opportunities, are much more than that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anna. Thank you very, very much. In fact, your presentation gave all the pivotal, let's say, elements of the reflection on sustainability, not only cultural tourism sustainability, but in general, how to work for sustainability. And you also mentioned these the impacts, so how to ensure the knowledge about the impacts we have in terms of number of visitors. So it's really something important and also difficult to measure along the cultural routes in general, and in particular along Destination Napoleon, because, as you mentioned, Londelinhas de Torres Vedras, sorry for my pronunciation in Portuguese, is really difficult because the lines are open air, they are not museums. And so we can imagine how difficult it is measuring impacts along Destination Napoleon, because each destination of our culture route has more or less the same concerns, apart of the museums, of course. So something we are discussing internally. So I think we will have the opportunity to create sort of think tank, and I think Charles will give us some ideas later on. Also to work on this point. So how to have in mind which impacts we have as cultural route in general. By, for example, creating some common tools at the European level. So we really have to brainstorm a little, I think, and each experience of our members are really precious for creating something useful for everybody. So thank you very much. I hope you will be able to see a little for some questions eventually. And I give the screen to our president, Charles Bonaparte, who will present some strategy we created also with the other cultural routes, the manifesto for the post-COVID for culture. Thank you very much, Charles.
Yes, thank you. Do you hear me? Yes? Okay. Yeah, thank you very much for your all contributions. I was very impressed by the quality of what you said and by the richness of your experiences. Our strategy for the future is to assemble all these initiatives, local initiatives, and to assemble not only at the level of Destination Napoleon, which is only one of the 40 cultural routes we discussed before, but to assemble all these experiences at the level of the cultural routes. So it's an initiative called Manifesto. And Manifesto means that we are going to make alive all these experiences to contribute to the objectives, as you mentioned before, of the European Green Deal, because it's exactly what the Europeans are expecting, not only the tourists, but also the citizens of Europe. For as far as we can do something, it's what we have to do now, just after we hope the end of this pandemic, when the people will come back, go back, visit again countries. So we have to promote these new kinds of tourism. As you mentioned before, open to local operators, very important. Discovering local resources, quite unknown resources, not only the strongholds of the European tourism, but also the local tourism. I was very impressed by what you explained about as well in Plymouth or in Torres Vedras line. Very interesting, quite unknown places to discover, very interesting. And also with low carbon transportation tools. You mentioned walking, cycling, horsing maybe. So anyway, new tools of discovering the places. So this is our purpose. We will assemble all these experiences, not only on the level of the cultural routes, but also crossing our experiences with other people, having other experience out of the field, maybe of tourism and culture also, but working and developing new approaches in the local level and in investing local development activities, generally speaking. There is a lot of people working in the same direction all over Europe. So we have to be a bridge. We have to be a hub between what we do as a Destination Napoleon, between what the other cultural routes do, but also what other Europeans do in other fields of activity. So it's another purpose of the manifesto. So we will build a common strategy, a new strategy, including all these new requirements, because of the new time, because of the new challenges we have to face now. I think also that it's very important to improve the visibility of the European cultural routes. I think our national governments, local authorities, and national governments, and European also responsible, do not know enough what we are and what we do. So I think it's an excellent way to explain what we are through very concrete experiences, and to share that with the national, local, and European responsible. Very important. So to improve the visibility. Also, I think we have to develop new tools to evaluate the new methodologies in relation with what's been done in non-cultural routes project, as I mentioned before. So we have started this manifesto by creating a digital platform, a website, which is just ready now. So we will promote this website to assemble all these local experiences. We will build a common dashboard to assemble all these experiences, and also, as I mentioned, digital platform. So it's a movement we are fully engaged in. We have started with Via Francigena. Today, we have been joined by 15 other European routes, and we are very full of confidence to that we will fulfill the purpose of our action. So I think this is the best way. This is the best conclusion I can do to this. I can give to this discussion about the sustainable tourism and traveling way, and to fix these new objectives for our federation and for all the cultural routes all together. Okay, thank you very much. It's going to be my conclusion. Eleonora Berti, maybe you want to add some words before we open the discussion, if we can have maybe some expression, some question which has been asked on the network. Eleonora?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you very much. I think it's a good conclusion, not only for this webinar, but also for this series of webinars and talks. We will like to continue the tradition of Destination Napoleon talks in order to give visibility to our members, which are doing a fantastic job on the ground, also in cooperation within each other. We know that, for example, Plymouth is working together with Pontivy in France in order to create common tools for common visibility and also common cultural tourism projects. In fact, implementing the principles of sustainability. So it's not only transborder, it's also transoceanic cooperation, in fact. So really glad to have Anna among our the members, in fact, of our federation who has a great experience in these questions and on these issues. In fact, we had positive comments on Facebook.
Yes.
We had a comment concerning the lines of Torres Vedras.
Yes.
After this reconstruction, we can read the lines are converted into an amazing cultural infrastructure. So we are really looking forward to go to Torres Vedras to have a day all together on the lines. And then we can read the future of cultural roots of the Council of Europe. Well, in fact, the work of the manifesto will be essential for the future of the cultural roots of the Council of Europe. And so good luck to everybody. Yeah. And in fact, we also, of course, are in contact with Stefano Dominioni and the team at the Institute. And we really are working hands in hands on these issues together as Cultural Root and also as a network of Cultural Roots. So we really count on the experience of the Council of Europe and the Institute, the largest partial agreement for working together. And I think we do not have so much time for questions, but maybe a question for Anna from my side is how the fact to be part of a cultural root of the Council of Europe and member of our federation is in fact has an impact on the work you are doing along the lines of Torres Vedras. And do you have already the possibility and are you used to exchange practices with other cities across Europe, part of our federation when working on sustainability? It's also important for our future cooperation. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you very much for the question. For us, being part of this federation is very important, and I would say natural, because we believe that the lines of Torres Vedras are, first of all, a resource, an important resource to tell the history of Europe. So this is natural. We have a natural connection with Europe. It's something that is inextricable. And actually our technical theme, because among our association, we obviously we have a board, an eclectic board, I would say, with representatives of the municipalities, but also private sector representatives, and as I mentioned before, also organizations from the social economy. And then we are organized in several different teams, which are mainly technical themes. And so our technical themes, they have obviously connections and linkages with other sites and other routes and itineraries among this cluster. And that is obviously very important for us, because innovation comes, we believe, from the diversity of perspectives, of searching new methodologies and approaches. So that connection for us, it's really important, and it has been a very interesting experience also for us politicians to make part of this federation, because we subscribe the principles and the values of the organization, and also the view. We don't have a view of the past, a crystallized view of the past. For us, is not relevant to glorify the past. It's important to make questions which are triggered by our daily and contemporary lives, and to look to the past with the eyes of the present and the questions of the present. And we believe that we can find answers in that dialectic. So for us, it has been very, very interesting, because this federation is quite thought-provoking organization and with a very interesting reflection dimension that for us it's important, because we thought it's honestly that during some time the touristic approach was tackled in a too much consensualized way. So these new trends for us are quite stimulating, actually.
Yes, thank you, Anna. I think you made a very interesting point about the relation between our daily activities, I would say, and a broader view about the signification of what we do. It's a matter of fact that we are attached not only, to promote projects, which are very important, what we have to do, but also to promote a global understanding of what is the role of these projects to create, a new world, I would say, a new world, and especially a new understanding of what Europe is, because Europe has to be built on the understanding of our common history. It might be through wars. It might be you can be a victim of wars. You can win wars. It doesn't matter. It's our common patrimonium. So and Europe will be built when all the European citizens will understand their common history. Their common past. So it's very important to develop this understanding through tourism and through local projects. So it's one of the main reason why I took the initiative to create this federation in 2004, and I'm very happy that because you joined us a couple of years ago, that you have understood exactly what we want to do. So, and I want to thank you very much for that.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes.
I think, I think, Eleonora, now we have, unfortunately, to conclude our meeting because we have been together since more than about 2 hours now. So it's time to conclude and to give you maybe an appointment next year because we will hope to reproduce and maybe better to improve what we have done for this anniversary of the death of Napoleon, 200 centuries. And so we will fix you an appointment next year, and because I think it was very rich, very rich experience, to discuss, especially today and the day before when we discuss about the new tools, of historical culture, very important, very interesting. And so it's a kind of subject we will discuss further on. So thank you very much, and appointment next year. Bye-bye. Thank you.